Reflecting on our last conversation, Ed, you made the comment that for Whitman, the soul becomes that strange material figure that he believes, he has faith, will be there at some future point. And it occurred to me that in so many ways we're talking about the future. Whitman has faith in the future. We think of Americans as being a forward-looking people. We could say in some ways that Whitman has caught that idea at the center of his poem, hasn't he?
He has, and that idea generates so much of what Whitman throughout the rest of his career is going to be concerned with. I think of his long essay written after the Civil War called Democratic Vistas, and it's an essay that everybody's heard of. Everybody likes that title. Democratic Vistas continues to get used again and again as a sort of catchphrase for something about America, always looking to that vista, to that future. But in the essay itself, it's interesting to me that Whitman makes it very clear that the future of America is totally undetermined. It could entirely fall apart. It almost had fallen apart.
In the Civil War.
Yeah. I mean, Whitman writes in Democratic Vistas that he's seen the country right on the edge of falling apart. And he doesn't think that now that the Civil War is over, we're past that. We could face it again and again and again. It's the nature of the instability of democracy. And so for Whitman, there's a sense that that future is never, it doesn't exist. In Democratic Vistas, he looks to the future and he always says, I can't make it out. It's foggy, it's misty, it's vague. And it's something he keeps trying to see but can't because there's nothing literally to see. It has not taken its material form yet. And that's, again, the nature of the relation of the soul to the future. The soul only exists in the present.
But he senses it, right?
Right, he senses it. And the soul is continually constructing what we call future, but future, by the time we get to it, is present. It's always only now. And so for Whitman, the importance in a democracy of recognizing the physical things we do day by day are constructing this thing we call the future. The future isn't there waiting for us. We are continually, minute by minute, day by day, building it. And democracy sets in operation certain dynamics. Whitman is very aware and sensitive of those dynamics. He feels it pushing towards something that's going to be non-discriminating, that's going to break down barriers, that's going to create a much more indiscriminate kind of society, that is going to ultimately create something he really cannot quite picture or imagine, but a truly democratic way of thinking that he likes to imagine. I think, as we've been discovering in Song of Myself, reading it, that we feel it as a kind of experimental voice. What would this voice feel like? And I think it's one reason Whitman likes to write to future readers who aren't there yet. He's basically asking the question, so what did happen? How did these dynamics work out? Is it true? Have we progressed? Are you less discriminating than I was? Are things more democratic? And it's why so many poets from Whitman's time to our own have continued to talk back to Whitman, to say, well, let me tell you, Walt.
Here's what happened.
Yeah. And it's maybe not as great as you thought it was going to be. But Whitman really didn't think it was going to be great, necessarily. He thought it would be whatever a democratic populace made it.
Decision by decision, minute by minute. And it's almost seems as if it's not an accident that the frontier officially closes, as you have pointed out, a year before he dies, and then Frederick Jackson Turner announces that a year after he dies. He is that figure right on the edge of what we imagine to be the end of the physical frontier, which opens up onto that larger metaphysical frontier that we are always moving our way into.
Yes, yes. And I think at the end of his life, Whitman was already imagining what future generations, what John Kennedy would call new frontiers.
Yeah.